Hi, and welcome to another episode of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, the Mind Management Mentors podcast. And we've got a very special guest on today. If you've not tuned into the podcast before and this is the first time, a few things that we want to do at the top of the podcast is, hi, I'm Cuddy Cudworth, the UK's leading mind management coach. Welcome to the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm a big believer of if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And we have a very special guest on today who's going to come in from a completely different angle, not a therapist, not a coach, but as a parent and a teacher. I think this is really powerful. So, Cheryl, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Cheryl Wessels, and I am based in Edinburgh, although I'm a Fifer originally. So me and Cuddy have that wee connection, which is nice. I have been a primary teacher for 22 years. I left teaching full-time in the summer of 23. I just needed a wee change. I'd been doing it for a long time. So I left in the summer 2023, and I was shown a wee business course by one of my friends because I've got a wee cookie business. And my friend sent me a link for an online business course. And she says, you might enjoy doing this. And I was needing something to keep my brain going. So I signed up for this wee business course. Enjoyed it, but I thought it's not really for my cookies. I've got more to offer, I think, because the course was like, how can you use information and knowledge that you have to support others? So as a teacher, obviously, I've been at the coalface of during COVID. The impact of COVID is going to, it's huge, it's hugely significant. And the behaviours within the school, not just my school, but behaviour within the school, since COVID in particular, there has been such an increase in anxiety and lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. And so when I was doing this business course, I thought I could probably put something together using my teacher knowledge, using skills and tools that I know work. So I started thinking how I could put a package together. That's not a course and it's not a seminar. I didn't want to say, come along and I'm going to teach you, because I had enough of teaching. I didn't want to teach. I needed a wee rest for teaching. And so I came across the idea of a subscription box. And so that's what I'm doing. I am creating a subscription box called Happy Thoughts Squad. And it's going to be a monthly box which has tools and strategies to support the emotional well-being of girls. Now, I know it's not just girls that would benefit from having a strong self-worth belief, having strong self-confidence. I know it's not just girls, because when I was in school, I saw it. But I want to start with something and do it right and do it well, and then I can expand it. So the reason I'm doing girls is that takes me on to my why. So I'm a mum of two. I've got a son who's 24 and my daughter is now 19. But when she was younger, she experienced anxiety and panic attacks. And as a mum, it was, sorry, I get quite emotional when I'm talking about it, but as a mum, it was horrendous to watch. Even though I had all that knowledge behind me about nurture and about, connection and relationships and how, and breathing and all that stuff, I had all that knowledge, but still as a mum, to watch my daughter go through that was really difficult. And so part of my support structure, if you like, for my box is to support mums as well, or parents and carers, not just mums, parents and carers to support their daughters. Because as a mum, there are things that you can put in place to support your girl that don't cost anything. It could be things like going for a walk, go out and do 10 breaths outside, jump up and down on a trampoline, lots of different things that could be used to support that they might not be aware of, or at the time they might not think, because they're in a different, they're not in the mindset to think, how can I support my daughter through this challenging time that she's experiencing? So my daughter's my why. And the reason, I'm sorry, I'm totally blethering, Cuddy. I just go on a wee explanation here.
Fine, I love it.
So the reason it's called Happy Thought Squad is because when my two were wee, we used to put them, when we put them to their beds, we would touch foreheads, close our eyes, count to 10, and I would say, right, think happy thoughts. So we'd shut our eyes, count to 10, and think happy things from that day. And so that's where Happy Thought Squad came from. And so at the moment, I am launching at the end of May. So I'm just chatting to people like you and networking and sharing my message and just Yeah, it's exciting. It's something totally different. I never thought when I was leaving school I would be, setting up a business, setting up, what I have created so far. I'm really quite excited by it, and the feedback that I'm getting has been great. I've had testers in my primary. I've got 2 boxes. I've got a primary box aged for 7 to 12, and I've got a teenage box aged for 13 to 16. So the feedback's been quite positive. So I think it can be a real support for families.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know that we did I always do a little 5-minute prep before we do the podcast, but apart from that, it's all is quite fresh and live. You did say you didn't want to share anything about your daughter's story because that's her story. So, and I think that's really admirable, by the way. Thank you so much for saying that, Cheryl. But what I did like about this story and what was going through my head, how we can get some really valuable, important information is, especially, we are going to talk about your teaching a little bit.
Yeah.
But as a parent, how did you feel when you know you've already got the answer and you have to sit and watch your daughter go through what she's going and maybe thinking, Mum doesn't know what I'm going through? How does that affect you as a mum?
Well, first, my emotions were all over the place because I just wanted to fix it. What can I do to fix it? And it's not an easy fix. No. And my box is not a fix-it box. I'm not a mental health expert. I am a teacher and I'm a mum who's experienced it. So it's not a fix-it box. But as a mum, I knew, not during the time. So at the moment in time when she was experiencing, she had panic attacks. So when she was going through that, we just focused on breathing. That was the easiest thing I could implement, the easiest thing that I could think of, right? What can I do in the moment to support her? And that was a really great tool because it supported me at the same time because I was breathing with her. We were doing it together. And there's different breathing techniques you can try. There's 5-finger breathing, there's box breathing, there's a whole load of different things that you can implement and try. It's free. There's lots of resources out there to support you to do that. But in that moment, I would say that was the biggest tool that supported both of us. And then it was afterwards we were able to reflect, right, did the breathing support you during that? Yes, it did. How can you, so when I'm not with her now, obviously, because she's at uni in Dundee, she's not in the house. And there are still times where she experiences it, but she's able to pull on the breathing in particular. It's breathing that she's using when she's having those panic moments again. Which has reduced greatly, I have to say. But as a mum, it was horrendous. I mean, I was all sweaty. I know, during panic attacks, there's different symptoms. There's the breathlessness, there's they're sweaty, they're clammy. And she was experiencing that. And I kind of felt I was doing that too, but I was trying not to show that with her, but my back was sweating. I was absolutely, jinx, it's such a difficult experience to watch and experience. Absolutely. Yeah, so I kind of feel because I've got the empathy of being through that helps me tailor the tools that I'm able to share to support from a mum's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often in the world of helping, experience is more than being taught. There's so many. I did a podcast with a fascinating lady talking about her son, and she wasn't a coach or a therapist, but she, because of the challenges she had with her son going through AUD, autism, and Asperger's, she was just more well-versed in any kind of subject, and she created a book about it, and she was helping others. That parent's perspective is just as important as the experts sometimes. The experts come from learning, they don't come from doing and being in the moment. So that's a powerful part for you, Cheryl. It really is.
Absolutely. And part of the offering for the box is I want to offer mums, parents, carers support as well. So there's not just the practical tools within the box. I'm going to have a monthly, I don't want to call it Meet the Expert yet, but it's a kind of Meet the Expert session where I'm going to have people like head teachers or therapists or music therapists, play therapists.
Or Cuddy Cudworth, the UK's leading mind management coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And have guests like yourself have a conversation just like we're having, and then I want to share that with the mums and parents and carers so they're getting the support as well. You know, it's not just here's a box full of stuff for your daughter. It's not just that. It's including the bigger picture, and my reasoning behind that is because of the experience I had as a mum.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't have just been the only mum going through that. I know I wasn't, but at the time it felt it.
Yeah.
You know, it really did. And so by offering these wee monthly sessions as well, online sessions, I'd like to be able to offer mums a bit of community as well, because if they know that there's others going through it, then, you know, they could have an online chat, they can connect or whatever they want to support, just to support each other as well. It's not just about the box, it's a more holistic offering that it brings.
Yeah. Have you only got one child? Have you got other kids?
I've got two. So my son's 24.
Right.
He's got his own wee flat, and then my daughter's at uni. She's 19.
Right. Fantastic. So as a teacher, for all those years experience, you've seen children change over the years and the stresses and the anxieties that the kids have.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest cause to the decrease or the increase in the negative mental health, and not the non-positive mental health, and the low self-esteem and the lack of confidence? Where have you as a teacher seen those changes come from? I
think probably the biggest impact has been COVID.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to look beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, they were stuck at home with parents. They weren't able to socialise.
Yeah.
And because they weren't able to socialise, the communication skills weren't developed.
Yeah.
Which means so when they're in class now, and class is different to when we went to school, you know, we had to go and sit at a desk. It's not like that now in a classroom. You know, there's flexible seating, there's different ways of learning, you're outside learning. It's so different to when we went to school. But the ability to communicate and express how they were feeling wasn't there during COVID. Yeah. You know, there wasn't the opportunity to share with their wee pals or to talk with teachers, or for teachers to lead like circle conversations in terms of offering support. And I think that lack of social has damaged relationships, and it's all relationship based. You know, it's all about connection, because like you're saying, things in the mind, if it's in the mind, it can be managed, but you have to have the opportunities to be able to do that. Yeah. And COVID didn't offer that. And now, I mean, I'm still doing supply, so I go in now and again, but I've been going in to nursery to support them. And even the wee ones that are coming in nursery, you see the impact of the lack of social experience that they had. They didn't have the mother and baby toddler groups. They weren't available for them. So their speech, not them all, obviously, but there's a significant speech impact in the nursery children that we are seeing come in as well, because they've not had the opportunity to verbalise, to chat, to socialise with each other. Yeah. So COVID has had a huge impact. And the information that we were getting during COVID was so varied. You know, it was on the news however many times a day, you know, people dying here, there and everywhere. And the children were exposed to that. And that it was scary. It
creates fear. You know? Yeah.
And fear is a big aspect of it. Absolutely. I really do think so. Yeah, but the opportunity, the lack of connection and the lack of relationship, I would say, has been the biggest impact. And even though it's been 5 years since it started, it's still having, like the primary 7s that are in now, they were in primary 2, primary 3, you know, and their education's been disrupted all the way through, as has everybody's, you know. So
do you see a change in behaviours with the children then? Do you see like more outbursts, lack of confidence? What's the behaviours that have changed?
Yeah, I would say that. So lack of confidence in that, not them all, and I'm not tarring all the children with the same brush, but the willingness to try isn't always there, because they don't believe that they're able to, or they'll give it 2 minutes, or can I do it? You know, pencil gets thrown, or, you know, they're up at their chair and they're pacing the room or whatever, you know. So, there's that. There's there was outbursts, you know, verbal outbursts, but it's because they're frustrated and they don't understand what emotions they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that we were doing, especially when we were introducing the children back into school, was like labeling and naming the emotions. What do they look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah.
What colour would represent how you're feeling?
Yeah.
You know, things like that, just to try and visualize for them that what you're feeling is okay, what you're feeling is normal. Everybody feels like that at some point, and that's okay. But it takes a long time for that to embed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the practice isn't as consistent as what it possibly could be in order to support the behaviours within the school. But there also has to be a partnership between the parents and the school. It's not just the school have to sort out and show the emotions and model, you're modelling the behaviours as well, so that children have the expectations of what frustration looks like, or what being happy looks like, so that you can model that yourself. But modeling that at home as well would be part of the holistic. I keep saying holistic, but I do mean it. It's not just this is how we behave at school and this is how we behave at home. It is a joint partnership between family and home. And so the behaviours since COVID has changed significantly in terms of self-esteem, in terms of self-confidence and ambition. I'm not going to bother trying because I can't do it anyway. And so it's breaking the learning down into wee manageable chunks, so that you've got small successes, and those small successes lead to a greater success.
So let's learn behavior. Super important in kids growing up. Learn behavior does come from the parents.
Lots of it, not all. But
no,
lots of it.
To be fair, not all, but a high percentage is learned behavior.
Yeah.
So if you've got a child who is throwing, do we then look at the parenting, and maybe the parents are not good at certain things, which is why, because that's technically generational trauma as well. Let's just touch on. I'm quite well versed in generational trauma. Is a learned behavior, or we bring over our traumas from what our parents, from what we learn, and that's how our belief systems build up.
Yeah.
So then we have. Do you, as a teacher, how do you manage your frustration when you know things are possible and things, even when we break it down? How do you manage your frustrations when you are working through what you're having to work through? Because you're not only a teacher, you're a mother for your own children as well. So how do teachers, or how do you manage genuinely seeing the quick change in the frustrations from the kids? Because that must be brutal.
It is. It's really difficult. But you need to keep calm. Because if I'm throwing a tantrum because they're throwing a tantrum, then that's just me. Yeah. That's me validating the tantrum.
Yeah.
So you need to try and keep calm.
Yeah.
You need to give them the space, because it's okay to throw a tantrum. It's all right to feel like that. Label it, embrace it, name it. Give them the space. If that means that they go outside for a wee wander with a classroom assistant to get some fresh air, then do it. If it means that the class goes out and the child's in the classroom so that they can vent their frustration in the classroom safely,
we never had that's... Hello, I'm listening to you, but I'm like, we never had any of this as a kids. Did we?
We never. School is totally different. Even
do you think the old way of teaching? So I wasn't brought up in a ruler over the hand or the belt or anything like that. I wasn't brought up. No, I was. I remember my dad saying, "My God, I'd have had the belt for that." And I remember my dad saying, "I'd have had my knuckles wrapped for that." So that wasn't my generation. My generation was quite nice, to be fair. You got told off if you did something wrong. You got told to. You knew right from wrong. How has it changed so much from? I was an 80s kid, to be fair, in junior school in the 80s, secondary school in the 90s. Was it 80s? Yeah, of course it was. It was 80s. I was 77. I was born in 77. Do these new ways of teaching help or increase? Because I think I'm quite a resilient person now. To be fair, I don't know about you, Cheryl, I think I'm quite resilient because literally when he fell down, I was told, shake it off, get back up, suck it up. There was no neglect. There was no abuse. I've not come from that kind of area and things like that. But it was like, shake it off. You're going to fall off your bike. You're all right, but get back on the bike. Right.
Yeah. I think from a teacher's point of view, the wee person that you're teaching has to be ready to learn. And if they're not, if their emotions are all over the shop, they don't understand what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing, why they are experiencing them.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
So I just breathed in the wrong hole. I've no idea why I started going. But Cheryl, we had emotional regulation when we were kids.
Absolutely, but the teacher still cracked on and taught you the times tables and literacy. Whereas just now in a classroom, if the wee ones aren't ready to learn, you can move on with the academic stuff, if you like, if you want to call it the academics. So there's a bigger emphasis in teaching and making sure that the health and well-being is in place and the children are ready before the academics then happen. Now that might just be after lunchtime, because lunchtime is always a hot spot for upset for children coming in upset. He did this, she did this, I had a fight with them, they took my ball, whatever. So whether that's having a wee calm 10 minutes, we have a wee calm time for 10 minutes, you get a book, you get a pen, you draw, you do whatever for 10 minutes, and then we're ready to learn. Or in the morning, if we do a wee check-in. So I always used to do a check-in circle. So my class would come in and I had a wee colour chart and they would go around the colour chart would pass around. What colour do you feel today? So it gives them the chance to share if they want to share. If they're blue, if they're dark blue because they're feeling really angry, I can then check in with them at a later point. I can say, right, I need to check in with that wee one to make sure if there's anything I can do to support them. But somebody else might say, oh, I'm a really dark blue because that's my favourite colour. Do you know? So, so the check-in opportunity gives the child, it's you allowing or enabling the children to recognise where they're at in their day emotionally. So it might be if all the children in my wee circle, or the majority of children in my wee circle were whatever colour they were not upset, but if they were itchy, if I could tell they were itchy, I would put on a song. I would put a song on and we would have a movement break before I started anything. We would just shake the jiggles off. We would, whatever song they fancied, we would just play a song, we'd have a wee dance, we'd get a bit of movement on because that then stimulates, all the positive, happy hormones. That then stimulates it. Right, guys, let's come back in and then now we're going to look at our literacy. So
cuddles do, by the way. Cuddles.
Absolutely.
The oxytocin chemical, boom.
Absolutely. And there's lots of things.
By the way, I've just realised I've said cuddles to a teacher talking about children. So
no, that's okay. There's ways around that. So also when I was in the wee circle, I used to love teaching primary one, and so I used to put them in a wee circle, and they would have their backs to each other, and so I would get them to know, give each other a wee massage on the shoulders. Or they'd write their names on each other's backs, which is physical contact, which again is not the same as a hug, but that physical contact is enough. Even welcoming into class has changed. You'll probably see it on TikTok and stuff, but there's lots of teachers will have their line coming in and they'll have a special handshake for coming in, and it's making that physical connection from the day before. So if the child's gone home, the relationship between the teacher and the child has broken between the end of the last day and the start of the next day. So there has to be a physical repair, physical connection to bring that relationship back together. So it might just be a high five as you come in. It might be I don't know. I'm trying to think something random. It might physically be a handshake. It might be a wee dance that you do together. But that connection, that relationship is repaired for coming back in, so that when they're in, hopefully they're ready to learn. They know they're in a safe place. They know they're in a safe environment. And it just makes them more open to the academic side of it. But if the health and well-being, if the emotional well-being is not there, you can teach all day and nothing will go in.
Yeah.
You have to really work
surely, and I know this is not your area, but surely diet and the amount of sugar drinks that they're having as bands has got to play havoc with their brain and their concentration. I mean, it has to.
Of course, and there's loads of research out there that shows nutritional benefits, and all that stuff. Absolutely, it's the big picture. It's wee bits for here, wee bits for there that all together will support the child. But absolutely, processed foods, packed lunches could be eye opening when you see them.
So Cheryl, happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts. Yes.
Give us the top 3 things that a parent can do that would support their young daughters to start understanding their emotions, their fears, and their beliefs about self.
So first thing I would say is having a conversation and listening, actively listening, because you can listen but not actually show your daughter that you're listening. So get down to their level. Even better, go outside and have a chat outside. Because if you're side by side, you've not got the eye contact and there's less pressure on your daughter. She might open up more to you.
Nice.
However, if you are sitting down and you're inside, have a wee question for her. What made you happy today? Or what's the best thing that happened to you today? It doesn't have to be about emotions, but just starting to converse and then actively listen by repeating some of the things back to her that she said shows that the connection's there. So conversation and listening for sure. Going outside, using nature, fresh air, breathing, walking, touching the grass and properly connecting. I know it sounds really woo-woo and really faffy, but it really does make you feel better. And when you think back to COVID, that's what we're all told to do. Get outside for an hour. It'll do your emotional well-being a real benefit. So talking and listening, using nature to support, and just, what's the biggest third thing that I would suggest? I'm trying to think what I've got in my box that I could use to help. Just mindfulness activities, doing things together, baking, crafting, colouring, that thing that it's all based down to relationships again, it's all about the connection, so mindfulness, absolutely, anything that can allow the two of you to be in the moment. You're not thinking about yesterday, you're not thinking about tomorrow, you're focusing on your task just now. And sometimes if you're involved in baking or you're involved in crafting, that's when a conversation could maybe be opened up, because your daughter's not thinking about that, they're focusing on what they're doing, and then they'll just start chatting. Not always, but sometimes. So mindfulness, talking and listening, and using nature, that would be the top 3, I would say.
Fantastic. Love it. Cheryl, it's been a fascinating, and the reason it's been such a great conversation for everyone watching this podcast is, there's a lot of therapists out there that have the tools and the techniques, and they're like, oh, you can just do this and you can just do this. And I fall into that category. It's funny because I had a couple of my clients, and they were talking to me about their kids, and I was like, actually, pretty much kind of touched on what I said. No, you need to come down to the level. And I remember this from the nanny TV program years ago. Whatever she was called, I forgot. Super Nanny. I was like, no, you've got to go down to their level. Go down to their level, show an interest, and have an equal conversation. And it's strange the things that you pick up from the podcast and the conversations that you have. And they were like, oh my God, I've started doing this and I've started doing this now. And look, for anyone, I know it'll be in the subscription box, is helping children understand that internal conversation that they have will be creating a lot of their anxieties.
Yep.
And that conversation, even though it's so loud, it's not factual. And it's not as real as we can hear it, feel it, and believe it. And it's such a powerful tool for kids to really understand, is when we manage that. So I've always called it my monkey mind. A lot of the things that I've done with kids and adults is understanding that internal thought track, the monkey mind, and the conversations that we have, and how we can break those patterns so we don't have anxiety and panic attacks.
Yep.
But I think what you're doing is absolutely beautiful, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Well done, you. I know that you have a cookie and a baking business, but this was all about the happy thoughts for the kids and things like that.
Absolutely.
So when can we have some details about the subscription for the kids and the parents?
So my subscription box is launching at the end of May.
Right.
So my website's not quite ready yet, but you'll find me mainly on Instagram.
Right.
Happy Thought Squad. Yeah, mainly
Happy
Instagram.
Happy Thought Squad. And do Happy Thoughts work?
I think they do. If you start with a wee happy thought every day, then that's you in a positive mindset. It's setting you up for the day in a lovely way. Then
do you know why it works, Cheryl?
It gets all the wee happy chemicals going.
Actually, it's a lot more deep-seated than that. It does, but what it actually does for the neurochemistry and the neural entanglements of the brain is once you start, it basically wakes up your subconscious, your subconscious mind, starts rewiring the neural pathways within the brain.
Yeah.
To have more positive pathways and connections.
Yeah.
And it starts genuinely setting you up for the day. So the amount of people that wake up in the morning and go, shit, it's Wednesday, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
You've already set yourself off to a bad one.
Absolutely.
So Cheryl, you are indeed correct.
Thank you. That's really cool. I need to ask. So my
problem.
sister's a science teacher, so I need to get her to help me with all the sciencey bits, so I'm able to share that a wee bit better. But
check out one of the podcasts I did with Dr. Rob Kelly about the neural pathways of how we genuinely wire. Seriously, you can rewire your brain to go from, we are wired to be negative. We're actually, your brain is wired to be completely negative, so it can protect us from death and anything going wrong. So it's always looking for that. So you actually do have to rewire your brain using 5-to-1 if you can. Normally it's 5 negatives to 1 positive. So you have to try and wire it to at least 5 positives to 1 negative. The negatives are still going to come, but the ratio of really genuinely putting yourself into that space will make a massive difference. So yeah,
absolutely. And it's embedding the practice into your everyday life. It's not just, oh, there's my subscription box arrived, I'm going to do my journal today. It's not. It's doing a wee thing every day to support your understanding of your emotions and to build that positiveness. It really is, because you're right. You keep saying it over. It's like positive affirmations. Say it over and over, and it will start to embed. You'll start to believe it. Yeah,
we have to believe it sometimes for it to be real, and it's just the same as having a belief that the monster coming around the door that I can't see is going to scare me and give me a panic attack. It's just as real, and we've created that negative mindset that we can actually look at the other side and go, there's no monster coming to change, and I'm absolutely fine. And I'm like, well, I'm lying. I'm just creating that story. Subconscious doesn't know.
Yeah.
Just absolutely. Listening to the conversation that you have. So Cheryl, well done you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you would like to share on the podcast?
Just, I know that there's lots of resources out there. Even if you don't do subscription box, if you need support, just go find it. Just Google you. You've got lots of resources on your YouTube channel. That mums, parents, families can access. It's not you're not going through it alone. No. So don't sit and worry about it. Do something about it. Whether it's a subscription box or not, there's resources out there and people that are willing and would love to help you. So don't stew. Don't be on your own. You're not.
Well done, Cheryl. It's lovely. It's a lovely premise. It's fantastic. It really is. Cheryl, you've been amazing. Thank you very much to the podcast. If it's in the mind, it can be managed. The Mind Management Mentors podcast. I've been Cuddy Cudworth, the UK's leading mind management coach, self-titled Cheryl. I'll tell you why. As always, big love from Cuddy, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast.